Okay, listeners, just imagine you're sitting in a meeting, your colleagues are talking, ideas are flying around the room, and you have something really good to say, like genuinely good, an idea that could actually help.
But you can't find the right words fast enough in English.
So you stay quiet. And then 3 minutes later, someone else says almost exactly the same thing in English, confidently.
And everyone nods and says, "Great point."
And you're sitting there thinking, I had that idea. That was my idea.
That feeling, right there, that's why we're here today.
Because staying silent in meetings doesn't just affect your confidence, it affects how people see you professionally. It affects your career.
And today, we are going to fix that completely. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to Mr. English Podcast. I'm Emma.
And I'm James. Day 27, and today we are talking about one of the most requested topics we've ever had, how to speak up in meetings in English.
How to agree, how to disagree politely, how to add your ideas, how to ask for clarification without feeling embarrassed.
All of it. Real phrases, real conversations, real confidence.
And if you're new here, welcome to the family. Subscribe to Mr. English Podcast right now. Every single day, a new episode, a new real-life situation, new English that actually works.
And if today's episode speaks to you, if you've ever sat silent in a meeting wishing you could speak up, share Mr. English Podcast with someone who needs it. Share it with a colleague, a friend, anyone who's working in English and wants to do it better.
Okay, James, I know you have a story about this.
I have several stories about this.
Pick the best one.
So this was during my first year working at an international company, mixed team, people from different countries, different backgrounds, and every Monday morning we had a team meeting, 1 hour. Everyone was expected to contribute.
Expected to contribute. That's the key phrase. Not optional.
Exactly. And the first few weeks, I just observed. I told myself I was learning the team dynamics, understanding how things worked, getting comfortable.
Which is reasonable, to be honest.
It was reasonable for maybe 2 weeks, but my week 4, my manager pulled me aside after a meeting, very kindly, very professionally, and she said, "James, we'd love to hear more from you in these meetings. Your background is really valuable, and I think the team would benefit from your perspective."
Oh, that's actually a very kind way to say you need to start talking.
It was very kind, and I appreciated it, but it also made me realize my silence was being noticed and not in the way I wanted.
Because silence can be misread, right? People don't always think, oh, they're just observing. Sometimes they think, do they not have ideas? Are they not engaged?
Exactly. And the problem wasn't that I didn't have ideas. I had plenty. The problem was that by the time I translated my thoughts, organized them in English, and found a polite way to jump into the conversation, the moment had passed.
The conversation had moved on.
3 topics forward, and my perfectly organized English sentence was now completely irrelevant.
That's the cruelest thing about fast-moving meetings.
So what changed for me was learning specific phrases, not just vocabulary, specific phrases for specific moments, and that's exactly what we're sharing today.
Okay, my story is a bit different. My problem wasn't staying quiet. My problem was that when I did speak, I didn't know how to disagree without sounding rude.
Oh, this is a really common problem.
So I was in a project meeting. We were discussing a new marketing strategy, and the team leader presented an idea that I genuinely thought was going in the wrong direction. Based on the data I had seen, it wasn't going to work.
And you knew this. You had information.
I had real data, so I spoke up. And what came out of my mouth was, I don't think that's a good idea. The numbers don't support it.
Direct?
Very direct. And in my head, in my language, that was a perfectly normal professional response. But in that English-speaking room with that particular team, at that particular moment, it landed like a slap.
The team leader's face changed.
The whole room went quiet for a second. And even though I was right about the data, I had created this awkward tension that affected the rest of the meeting.
So you were right, but the delivery damaged the outcome.
Completely. And I went home that evening and thought, how do I say what I genuinely think without making people feel attacked?
Because there's a
How do I
huge difference
disagree
between
professionally?
disagreeing and being disagreeable.
Huge difference. And once I learned the right phrases for polite disagreement, everything changed. People actually started listening to my concerns more because I wasn't putting them on the defensive.
That's the magic of professional communication. You can say the same thing in two different ways and get completely different results.
And today, we're going to show you how.
Before we get into the phrases, let's talk about why meetings are particularly difficult for English learners, because understanding the challenge helps you prepare for it.
Challenge 1. Speed. Meetings move fast. Native English speakers especially can move through topics very quickly. By the time you've processed what was said and formed your response, the conversation has already moved.
Challenge 2. Interruption culture. In many English-speaking professional environments, people speak over each other, jump in mid-sentence, and build on each other's ideas very rapidly. This can feel chaotic and hard to enter.
Challenge 3. Politeness rules. English professional culture has very specific rules about how to agree, disagree, and challenge ideas politely. These rules are different from many other cultures. What sounds direct and efficient in one language can sound rude in English.
Challenge 4. Confidence gap. Even when you know what to say, the fear of making a grammar mistake or being misunderstood can keep you silent, and silence becomes a habit.
Challenge 5. Vocabulary gaps. You might have the idea, but not the specific meeting vocabulary. Words like agenda, motion, take that offline, circle back. These are common in meetings and confusing if you haven't heard them before.
So we're going to address all of these today, phrase by phrase.
Let's start with the most important skill, how to enter the conversation, how to actually jump in.
This is where most people struggle first. Not what to say, but how to start saying it. How do you get your voice into a fast-moving meeting?
There are specific phrases that signal to everyone in the room, I have something to say, please give me the floor. And people recognize these signals, and they work.
The floor, that's a meeting term. Having the floor means it's your turn to speak. Giving the floor means letting someone speak.
So here are your entry phrases, phrases that help you jump into the conversation smoothly.
Can I jump in here? Very natural, very common. It signals you want to speak without being aggressive.
If I could just add something, polite, professional, signals you have something relevant.
I'd like to make a point about that. Clear and direct, shows you have a specific contribution.
Sorry to interrupt, but this works when someone is mid-sentence and you really need to speak. The sorry softens it.
Before we move on, can I quickly add? Perfect for when the topic is about to change and you haven't spoken yet.
I've been thinking about this, and great opener, shows you've been engaged, not daydreaming.
That's actually a great point, and it connects to something I wanted to say. This is a smooth technique. You complement the previous speaker and then bridge to your own point.
That last one is really clever, because you're not interrupting, you're connecting, and it feels very natural.
And here's a tip. When you use any of these phrases, say them at a normal volume, not too quiet. One of the biggest mistakes in meetings is starting your sentence quietly and then getting louder. Start at full volume.
Because if you start quietly, people might not realize you're speaking and they'll talk over you.
Start strong. Can I jump in here? Clear, confident, and suddenly everyone knows you have something to say.
Okay, let's talk about agreeing, because yes is a fine word, but in a professional meeting, you want to sound more engaged than just yes.
Agreeing well in a meeting actually builds relationships. It shows you're listening, it shows you value other people's ideas, and it creates a positive dynamic that makes people more likely to listen to you.
So here are your agreement phrases, from simple to more developed.
Simple and direct agreements.
Absolutely. Strong, clear agreement. Very professional.
Exactly. Shows the other person said what you were thinking.
That's a great point. Classic. Always works.
I completely agree. Clear and unambiguous.
You're right about that. Direct and affirming.
Now, developed agreements, where you agree and also add something.
I agree with that, and I'd also add, you're supporting and contributing.
That's exactly what I was thinking, and it also connects to, shows alignment and builds on the idea.
I think that's a strong approach. We could also consider
I support
agreement
that idea.
followed by
In my
expansion.
experience, that approach has worked well because
That aligns with what we saw in the data, and
These developed agreements are gold in meetings because you're not just nodding, you're actively building the conversation.
people remember the ones who build conversations, not just the ones who sit quietly.
Or the ones who talk for 7 minutes about their grandmother.
James, we left that in day 26.
It's a relevant benchmark. I stand by it. Okay, this is the one Emma needed, the one that changed her professional life. How to disagree without creating tension.
My pre-phrase life was a disaster. Let's help everyone avoid my mistakes.
First, the golden rule of professional disagreement in English. Always acknowledge the other person's point before you challenge it.
Always. This is not optional. Even if you think the idea is completely wrong, even if you have data that proves it won't work, start by acknowledging.
Because when people feel heard, they're much more open to hearing a different perspective. When they feel attacked, they shut down and defend.
So here are your polite disagreement phrases, starting with the soft approach.
I see your point, but I think we might want to consider classic, professional, effective.
That's an interesting approach. I wonder if we've thought about soft challenge, opens a question rather than stating opposition.
I understand where you're coming from. My concern would be shows empathy first, then raises the issue.
I appreciate that idea. Could we also look at appreciates before questioning?
I'm not sure I fully agree with that. Could you help me understand? Honest disagreement wrapped in a request for more information.
I see the value in that approach. However, based on, I think we might need to reconsider. Acknowledges value before presenting the counter.
Respectfully, I have a different view on this. I think formal and professional works in any meeting environment.
I'd like to gently push back on that idea. The data suggests gently push back is a beautiful phrase. It tells people you're going to challenge them, but you're going to do it carefully.
That phrase is seriously underrated. I'd like to gently push back. It's honest about what you're doing while being completely professional.
And notice, in every single one of these phrases, there's no personal attack. You're challenging the idea, not the person.
The idea is wrong, not the person. That distinction matters enormously in English professional culture.
Because in English professional settings, ideas are debated. People are respected. Always.
Now let's talk about adding ideas, because sometimes you're not agreeing or disagreeing, you're just bringing something new to the table.
Adding ideas is actually where you can shine the most in a meeting, because you're not reacting, you're creating. You're contributing original thinking.
And there are phrases that frame your ideas in a way that makes people lean in and listen.
Here are your idea-adding phrases.
I have an idea I'd like to share. Simple, clear, prepares the room to listen.
What if we tried question format, less intimidating to present and more inviting for the group?
One thing we could consider is soft and collaborative, presents as an option, not a demand.
Building on what was just said, have we thought about you're adding, not competing? Very powerful.
I'd like to suggest formal and professional, works in any meeting environment.
This might be worth exploring. What about shows openness, invites discussion?
Could we look at this from a different angle? What if signals a new perspective without dismissing what came before?
I've seen something similar work well in the past. We could try grounds your idea in real experience. Very persuasive.
Another option might be simple, clean, no pressure, just offering.
And here's something important for English learners specifically, because in a meeting, sometimes you genuinely don't understand what someone said. Maybe they used a term you don't know. Maybe they spoke too fast.
And the worst
Maybe
thing you
their
can do
accent
is
was
nod and
unfamiliar.
pretend you understood. Because then decisions get made, action points get assigned, and you go home not knowing what you agreed to.
Which has happened to several people I know, possibly including me.
Possibly including me too.
So asking for clarification is not a weakness. In professional English culture, it's actually a sign of intelligence and engagement.
Because it shows you care about getting things right, not just moving through the meeting quickly.
Here are your clarification phrases.
Sorry, could you clarify what you mean by direct and professional?
Just to make sure I understand, are you saying you rephrase what you heard? This is brilliant because it confirms understanding.
Could you say a little more about that? Invites expansion. Very open, very natural.
I want to make sure I follow. Can you walk us through that again? Walk us through is a great meeting phrase. It asks for a step-by-step explanation.
I'm not sure I caught all of that. Could you repeat the key point? Honest and professional.
When you say, do you mean this or that? You give two options. This shows you've been thinking, and it helps the speaker clarify quickly.
That's an interesting point. Could you give an example of what that would look like? Asking for a concrete example. Always useful.
Just to confirm, the main point is this, right? Summarizing for confirmation. Very professional habit.
And one for when you need a moment because a lot was said. There's a lot there. Let me make sure I understood everything correctly. And then you summarize.
That last one positions you as someone thorough and careful, not someone confused. Big difference in how it's perceived.
And the key thing about all these phrases, they're polite. They're not accusatory. They don't say, you were unclear. They say, I want to understand better.
The focus is on your understanding, not on their communication. And that's what makes them work.
Role play time. This is my favorite part. Let's put all of this together in a realistic meeting scenario.
We're going to simulate a short team meeting. The topic is, should the company launch a new product before the end of the year?
I'll be the team leader. Emma, you're a team member. And we'll show you the full range of phrases in action. Entering, agreeing, disagreeing, adding ideas, clarifying.
Let's go.
Okay, everyone, let's talk about the product launch timeline. The suggestion on the table is to push forward with the launch before December. Thoughts?
Can I jump in here? I think moving fast could actually work in our favor. The market is ready for this right now.
Good point. Anyone else? What about the preparation timeline? Are we ready?
I'd like to add something to that. If we accelerate the launch, we might need to bring in extra support for the customer service team. That's a cost we should factor in.
That's fair. Now, some of the team has suggested delaying until Q1 next year for a stronger launch. Thoughts on that?
I understand the logic behind waiting. My concern, though, would be that our main competitor is likely to launch something similar in January. If we wait, we lose the first mover advantage.
Can you clarify what you mean by first mover advantage in this context?
Of course. When I say first mover advantage, I mean that whichever company launches first tends to capture more customer attention and brand loyalty early. Being second, even with a better product, is a harder position to market from.
Got it. That's helpful context. So you're recommending we proceed with the December launch.
I support the December launch, yes, but I'd also suggest we set a clear internal deadline, say mid-November, to confirm all systems are ready. That gives us a checkpoint before we commit fully.
That's a strong idea. I'd like to hear if anyone has a different view on this before we decide.
And that's the flow. Did you notice how each contribution was complete? It had a clear point and clear language.
And nothing was personal. No, your idea is wrong. No, that doesn't make sense. Every challenge was framed around the situation, the data, the strategy.
That's professional English meeting language. And now you have the tools to do exactly that.
Let's go through essential meeting vocabulary, because meetings have their own language, and if you don't know these terms, you can feel lost even when you understand every individual word.
Agenda. The list of topics to be discussed in the meeting. Can everyone look at the agenda?
Minutes. The written record of what was said and decided in the meeting. I'll take the minutes today.
Action point. A task that someone agreed to complete after the meeting. The action point is to send the
Discuss
report by
something
Friday.
separately, not in this meeting. Let's take that conversation offline.
Circle back. Return to a topic later. Let's circle back to that at the end.
Touch base. Have a quick conversation, usually to update someone. Let's touch base after the meeting.
Move forward. Continue with a plan or decision. Are we ready to move forward on this?
Table a discussion. This one is tricky because it means different things in British and American English. In British English, to table something means to bring it to the meeting for discussion. In American English, it means to postpone it.
That is genuinely confusing. The same phrase meaning opposite things.
Completely opposite. So if someone says, let's table that,
Pay attention to context, or just ask, do you mean discuss it now or postpone it?
Always better to ask than to assume.
Deliverable, a result or product that needs to be completed and handed over. What are the deliverables for this project?
Stakeholder, a person who is affected by or interested in a project or decision. We need to inform all stakeholders.
Sign off, officially approve something. We need the manager to sign off on this budget.
Consensus, when everyone in the group agrees. Can we reach a consensus on this?
Brief, a short summary or explanation. Can you brief us on what happened last week?
Those terms will come up repeatedly in professional meetings. Know them, and you'll follow the conversation much easier.
Okay, let's talk about the confidence side of this, because phrases are one thing, but the mental game of speaking up in meetings, that's a different challenge.
And for English learners, that mental challenge is double, because you're managing both the idea and the language at the same time.
So here are real practical confidence tips that work.
Tip 1. Prepare one contribution before the meeting. Just one. If you know the agenda, pick one topic and prepare something to say about it. One sentence, one question, one idea. Walk in knowing you have that in your pocket.
Knowing you have something ready removes so much pressure. Instead of sitting there thinking, what if I have to speak, you're thinking, I know what I'm going to say when the right moment comes.
Tip 2. Speak early in the meeting. The longer you wait, the harder it gets. Psychologically, once you've spoken, even briefly, once your voice has been in the room, it becomes much easier to speak again.
First contribution is the hardest. Make it early, make it simple. It doesn't have to be brilliant. I agree with that approach, is enough to break the seal.
Break the seal. I love that phrase. Yes, break the seal early.
Tip 3. Use preparation phrases to buy yourself thinking time. If someone asks you a direct question and you need a moment, say, that's a good question, let me think about that for a second, and then take your moment.
That phrase does two things. It signals that you're engaged, and it gives you the time you need without awkward silence.
Tip 4. Don't wait for a perfect sentence. A good sentence now beats a perfect sentence 3 minutes too late. Say what you mean in clear, simple words. You don't need to be eloquent. You need to be understood.
Understood and clear is always better than eloquent and late.
Tip 5. Write notes during the meeting. When you hear something you want to respond to, write a quick note to yourself, a word or two. Then you don't lose the thought while you're waiting for your moment.
That's such a practical tip. A tiny notebook or just your phone. Quick note keeps the idea alive until the right moment.
And tip 6. Celebrate every small win. You said one thing in the meeting today? That's a win. You asked one clarification question? Win. You're building a habit, and habits grow.
Every meeting is practice, and practice is how you get good at anything. Let's do a final quick run-through. Your complete meeting phrase toolkit, all in one place.
Entering the conversation. Can I jump in here? If I could just add something. Before we move on, can I quickly add, I've been thinking about this and...
Agreeing. Absolutely. That's a great point. I completely agree. I agree with that, and I'd also add, that aligns with what I've seen too.
Disagreeing politely. I see your point, but my concern would be, I'd like to gently push back on that. Respectfully, I have a different view. I understand where you're coming from, however.
Adding ideas. What if we tried... Building on that, have we considered... I'd like to suggest... One thing we could explore is... I've seen this work well before. We could try...
Could you clarify what you mean by... Just to make sure I understand, are you saying... Could you walk us through that again? Could you give an example of what that looks like? Just to confirm, the main point is this, right?
That's a good question. Let me think about that. There's a lot there. Let me make sure I've understood everything correctly.
That's your complete toolkit. Those phrases cover almost every situation you'll face in a professional meeting.
And they work whether you're in a team meeting, a client call, a video conference, or a one-on-one with your manager.
Let's bring today home. Day 27 of Mr. English Podcast. Speak up in meetings.
We covered how to enter a conversation so your voice actually gets heard.
How to agree with real depth, not just nodding.
How to disagree politely, professionally, without creating tension.
how to add ideas in a way that makes people listen,
How to ask for clarification as a strength, not a weakness.
and the confidence strategies that help you actually use all of this in a real room with real people under real pressure.
You know what the most important thing is? The difference between someone who gets heard in meetings and someone who doesn't, it's rarely about intelligence. It's about language tools and the confidence to use them.
And you now have both, the tools and the understanding of how to use them.
So the next meeting you're in, try just one phrase, just one. Can I jump in here? And see what happens.
One phrase, one meeting, one step forward.
That is a wrap on day 27 of Mr. English Podcast. If this episode helped you, if you've ever felt invisible in a meeting and wanted to change that, please subscribe to Mr. English Podcast right now. Every day, a new episode, a new situation, new English for real life.
And please share Mr. English Podcast with a colleague, a friend, anyone who works in English and wants to communicate more confidently. Sharing takes seconds. The impact lasts much longer.
And now we want to hear from you. Have you ever had a meeting moment where you stayed quiet and wished you hadn't? Or a moment where you spoke up and it went really well or not so well?
Tell us in the comments. Your real story might be exactly what someone else needed to hear today. We read every single comment and we reply.
We'll see you tomorrow for day 28. Another situation, another set of tools, another step forward in your English journey.